up, hit them up. Welcome to Let's Talk Podcast. I'm so excited about tonight's show. If y'all can hear me, let me know. Let me know. Hey, look who's in the building, Elijah. What's good? I'm glad to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everybody, I'm so excited about today's show. Yo, it's good. I'm so excited about today's show, man. Y'all share. Everybody who's in here, like, share. Send it to people on your phone. Say, hey, y'all, I need y'all to get up in here. Uh, hey, good. You hear me? Thank you. Shalom, shalom. I'm so excited about today's show. I know I say that about every show. Yo, what's up, VA in the building? What's good? What's good, VA? You better come up here later and come talk to us. I know I say I'm excited about every show, but I'm really excited about every show. And this show I'm particularly excited about because this is one of those conversations that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I don't think I ever had the time, the space, or even the information to be able to do that. But the brother that we got on tonight, Mr. Blacktastic, oh man, what a great speaker, very intelligent, elder in the community, a lot of respect from his peers. And I'm just so excited for him to be here today to educate us and kind of open up our minds to understanding what's going on around us. So tonight we're going to be talking about COON. And as you guys know, that word, from my understanding, is banned on a lot of platforms. A lot of people use it in a derogatory sense, trying to attack people or hurt people. We're not using it in that way at all. We are not here to try to attack, try to come after a particular group. That's not what we're here for. We're here to educate, because when we talk about COONs, which we will be referring to as raccoons, so that we could try to get the algorithm going. When we talk about raccoons, this is historical information. This is not just something you want to call somebody or something you just want to attack someone with. It has a definition, it has a meaning, and it has a purpose. And that's what we're going to be diving in deep today. Me as well as Mr. Black Tactic, which I'm super excited about having him on today. With no further ado, I don't want to keep making y'all wait. Let's bring up Mr. Black Tastic. What's good, brother?
Hey, shalom, shalom. What's
Hey,
going on, my sister? Glad to be here with you.
I'm excited. I'm happy you're here. Look at you. You're looking nice, looking fresh, clean, crisp.
Appreciate it. Try to keep my face looking some like it been washed.
Yeah, it look good. Yeah, you should be on one of them commercials where they sell like the face cleaner. Like, do you want your skin to look as nice as mine?
just
You would definitely
just
be
so shea
sponsored.
butter.
Thank you for being here tonight, man. I'm so excited. You've been following the platform for a little bit, showing me a lot of support.
Hmm.
I'm always seeing you in the comment
Absolutely,
section,
absolutely.
sharing your piece. What's up? What's up? What's up? But you're getting some people in there hollering at you too, Mr. Blacktastic. So people excited about you.
Yeah, I see that's Regina. That's my dear sister right there, Regina. I see my boy BA in the building. All right. Yeah, glad to see you. That's my
Yeah,
brother right there.
that's why I'm excited
Yeah.
you're here. Like I'm like, I can't believe I got it. Like, thank you, God. Like I can't believe I got him
You
on here.
making me feel more special than I am. So I
Nah,
appreciate the
no, no,
love.
no. You got
I
a lot
really
of
do.
respect. You got a lot of respect for the people. Do not sell yourself short at all. With that being said, I want to get right into it. But before we do that, I want the people to know, who are we speaking with? Who do we have the pleasure to have on the Let's Talk podcast platform? Introduce yourself to the people and also give them some information if where they can reach you and where they can check out some of your material and content that you put out there.
All right. Well, my name is actually Isaiah West. Some people call me Dr. West. Yeshaya Marav, what you see on the screen, is just basically Isaiah West in Hebrew. Yeshaya for Isaiah, Marav for West. And I'm a born again Israelite, Jew, Black Jew, whatever you want to call it. I'm a believer in the Mashiach. I've been in ministry now for 31 years, I believe, this year. I am the father of successful adult children, who doing very well. My son is a music producer. My daughter's an attorney with her own law firm. I got a bunch of grandkids that keep popping out every other year. It seems like
They keep popping out.
they keep popping out, man. My platform is called Mr. Blacktastic. BLAK without the C in the middle of the K and the ATASTIC. And so I have a platform which I do teaching, but for the most part, also along with that 31 years in ministry, I've also been in the community as an activist, and volunteer and educator and things of this sort for about the same amount of time. So, I grew up in the Black Power movement. My father was one of the earliest members of the Black Panther Party. I don't call him an original member, but he was probably their first wave of recruits in 1965. He was recruited by Bobby Seale and Huey Newton right off the college campus there in the Bay Area. And for me, growing up, grew up with a very pro-black household and things of this sort. Being raised by my dad in that environment, I'm not a mama's boy at all. So, for people who think I fit a certain profile, no, I've had my father. My father's in my life all the way until he's passing away in 1998. But the way we were raised, it was a certain way, and it helped shape my worldview, but also my theology as well. And then as I've grown and developed, and experience things on my own, I've come to my own conclusions, aside from the things that I was taught. But the things that I was taught have helped give me a solid foundation in terms of seeing the needs of Black people in the Western Hemisphere, but as well as also poor people. And I just think the gospel has only enhanced that. So I try to be more than anything, true to myself. Like I said, I was raised by a man that taught me sometimes you got to stand alone, even if you standing against a whole crowd and everybody's against you. You got to stand on what you believe in, and you got to declare the truth. It's not important to be popular, but it's important to be effective.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So, like I said, I don't care about being popular. I care about being effective to the people that matter most. And for the most part, I deal a lot of times with homeless people and other people that's been disenfranchised, kind of, what they call, in the highways and the hedges, or have fallen by the wayside. And so that's who I go to. So most of the ministry I do will never be broadcast or promoted on social media. And because I keep it off of social media exactly for that reason. So the things that I do on social media is a very small part of what I actually do. And that's because most of the people that I'm dealing with, I try to protect their privacy, help them maintain their dignity and things of this sort. So you won't see videos and pictures of me with the homeless taking pictures of people looking destitute and dusty and broke down on the street, because I don't feel that's appropriate. And so, like I said, in the years that I've spent with people in those situations, it's taught me a lot about love, respect, and other things of that sort. But then also, I am in regular contact with Black folks in the diaspora in other parts of the world. And so I talk to people in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Botswana, in Ethiopia, and things of this sort. And we have regular conversations, even talking to people in Pakistan and India, also. And it just helps me keep, a finger on the pulse of what's going on in other places, and not just here. And then I'm able to brainstorm with those individuals, in terms of other ideas and things. And like I said, the most important things that I do are things that'll never be advertised. And I prefer it that way. I prefer it that way.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you went into all of that. This is why, you guys, because you guys have to understand that he's not speaking from a one-sided way of seeing things. He's speaking from one, his experiences, two, his environment, three, other people outside of his environment in other countries and continents and all type of places. So what we have to understand is that we're truly, truly blessed to have this brother on here today, because he's going to give us, I mean everything I say in this sense, a worldview, because of his experience, the time that he spent on this earth, the different things as far as his parents coming from, the Black Panther background. Also, with him being an activist, not just on social media, like he said, you may just see a little piece of what he's doing. He's out there actually in the trenches, in the streets. Not just that, he's talking to people from other places across the world whom you probably would have never been able to speak to. And they have a totally different perspective on things. And the fact that he's willing to say, you know what, I want to know what's going on. I want to keep up to date what's really happening. And with that type of experience and mindset, when we get into this topic that we're going to be talking about today, which is raccoons. So everybody try to use that word, raccoons, because y'all know that word, the other word is banned on YouTube. And we want this video to really get pushed out. We want it to reach a lot of people because it's important. But with all that being said, we're going to get right into it. So The reason I wanted to,
I got to give a shout out to BA's daughter, Kaija. Tell her I said what's up.
okay, look, guys,
I just saw his comment. He said,
yeah, she watched it too. That's what he said. Thank you. Shout out to everybody, especially BA daughter. What's up? What's up? I'm glad she's watching because I wanted some of the youth to be here, not just people in my age group or your age group. I wanted people of the youth because honestly, they're the ones that's being affected by what we're about to speak about the most. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into this conversation. Now, I saw a video that he promoted on his channel, Mr. Blacktastic, and he was talking about the raccoon and breaking down, I guess, the history and things of that nature. So, before we even I get into some of the questions, I want you to tell us what is a raccoon?
okay, so a raccoon, as we're saying, I stress the latter part, but I'll say raccoon.
Raccoon.
I mean, in our present usage of the term, it's a racial epithet that's meant to disparage somebody. It's normally for a contemptuous person of color or black person in particular. And so this particular person would be what we would consider a sellout or somebody who would betray their own ethnic group, on behalf of those who they have aligned themselves with outside of the group. In other words, their allegiances would be endeared to the dominant society that has the tendency or is in the dominant position economically, socially, and politically over their particular group. And so those, what we call raccoons, oftentimes cater to them and they identify with that particular group of people, both socially, politically, and economically. But they do it in a way to throw their own group that they actually come from under the bus. And so it's really kind of like, and it can be both overt and covert. So it can be an open betrayal where you see them out there kind of like Uncle Ruckus, from the Boondocks cartoon. He's just,
Yeah.
very blatant with it. but but then you also have the more subversive element, which I would say is actually the most dangerous. And that's because you don't know all the time that their actual allegiances are to another group. But what happens is the evidence of this begins to show up in our communities at the social, economic, and political level. When you start to understand why aren't certain resources being allocated to our communities to help uplift the people, and we have more black politicians than we've ever had at any other time, and those people can only make it into office for the most part based on the black vote and things of this sort. And yet, black people are in a worse position than they ever have been. We've actually not moved the needle since the 1960s when all of the civil rights legislations and great civil rights icons were assassinated. We've stayed relatively in the same position. And then also, almost since the beginning of slavery, when black people were first brought here and our numbers began to gain substantial strength, we've been kept almost as if monitored because we've been kept at 13% of the population consistently, even though there are over 40 million of us in the country. The percentage of how many of us relative to the total population has remained the same. So those numbers are managed. Yet other groups, their numbers have grown and increased. And as it was projected by Dr. Claude Anderson back in the 70s, that the eventually groups like the Hispanics would surpass us at a certain time period. It hit the mark when he said that it would happen. And now about 2025 or 2025, we're on track to be surpassed by Asians. And that will slide us down from where Hispanics had knocked us out of the first position as the largest minority, and now we're in the second. That's going to slide us down into third position. And that means that the further down that ladder we slide, the less important our concerns and issues are to the dominant
Yeah,
majority.
yeah, because it's not, yeah, the least of us, the lower our voices. But this is my question to you. You've broken down the different areas you will find them in. It's not just one sector. But tonight we're going to be focusing on the music industry because you broke
Mhm.
down policies, you broke down how many percentage of us and policy, you broke all that down. So it's not just one area when it comes to where raccoons are active. They're active everywhere. But we're going to be focusing on the rap music, the music industry in particular, all music, but especially rap music. But before we get into that, I want to know this. Now that we understand what a raccoon is, you broke down what they do, but what I want to know is how did this start? Where did this come from? And is it still active?
Based on what we're talking about today, is very active. And as far as how it started, well, it actually didn't even start in the Americas. It started on the African continent with slavery in this regard, and that's because when Europeans joined up with Arab slavers and entered into the slave trade, well, now you get the transatlantic portion of slave trade taking place. They couldn't go into Africa without help. So, who helped the Europeans enslave other Africans? Well, it was other Africans that were actively involved and already in cahoots with the Arab slavers. And so you really see the first raccoons, you got me laughing, you were using that,
Raccoon.
beginning right there, on the dark continent of all places, as it's called. And so you already had the mindset of people who looked at those that they were among, as being expendable or as some kind of commodity to enrich themselves. Because one of the things about the raccoon mentality is it's self-centered. So it doesn't have a people oriented mentality unless it's just to appease those whom it's serving. So you had black slave traders, black guides who helped Europeans track down other blacks, who made connections with these other African tribes that were involved in the slave trade. And so, really, when you think about the etymology or the development of the whole raccoon mentality, well, you have to go back to that particular place. Now, every continent, every ethnicity, every culture, they have their raccoons. It's not necessarily just a black thing, so to
I
speak.
said
It's
that
a
because
it's a mentality.
I think for the most part for me until I started looking into it, I really did see it as a black thing. But
Right,
now
because
that
that's what we
I'm
associated with.
Yeah, but now that I'm learning more and I'm kind of expanding my thought process and looking into more evidence and watching documentaries, yours and other people's, I'm realizing that, like you said, this started way before the Americans. But the reason why I want to speak about the Americas is because for me, for you, and for the most of us who's on this channel and gonna come, it's pretty much in our backyard, so to speak.
Right,
Knowing where it comes
right.
from is important because we got to know, like, it's not just us. This is something that's been going on for a long time, and it's gonna probably keep going on after we leave. But I want to kind of bring it home. So what I want to do is I want to ask you, who would you say, because we know it didn't start here, but now that it is so prevalent, who would you say now, today, is in full force control as far as the black community goes with the raccoons? Is this individual raccoons just going wild and saying, I want to be a raccoon because that's how you come up quick and then they just go for it? Or is there something that is moving this thing forward to continue to keep recruiting raccoons?
Yeah. I would classify it as elitism. And elitism is where you begin to draw a line between one group of people and the next. And one group decides that we are in a position to dominate or rule over this particular group, or we're better. And so when it comes to a minority like black people, for instance, well, we don't control infrastructure or run the government and things of this sort. But what happens is blacks who maneuver themselves into a particular position, whether it's through politics or especially with the entertainment industry, because that's where you're going to see the most visible ones, you know, and they're going to, as they progress, they're going to make alliances and allegiances with people of the dominant society that are able to bring them up even more, and then they're going to be confronted with the with a compromise.
So you think some
How
of these
far you
people?
want to go?
So you think some of these people are what? I guess what I'm trying to find out is, are people in our community already with this mentality, and then they just find the people who's going to continue to give them the support they need, whether it's destroying their community or not. But what I'm saying is, are they recruiting them, or are they making them? I guess what I'm trying to say, are they creating
That's a good
raccoons,
question.
or are they recruiting raccoons?
You know what? That's a great question. I guess I would have to look at it like this: they're definitely recruiting people, but the only people that you can actually recruit successfully is people whose whose mind you can change successfully.
Hmm.
And that's where that aspect of what I'm talking about is, you present them with the opportunity, and then once you give them the opportunity, you got to bring them in further and present them with the compromise. So
Hmm.
now that I gave you this, I can give you that, but
Yeah.
what else are you willing to do? And that's how a person gets sucked in deeper and deeper and deeper. And so now again, they leave this collective idea, and it all becomes based on my individual success and progress.
Not
And
not as
that's
a
what it be.
whole, not as a
Right,
community.
right.
That's one of our biggest issue as people, as melanated people. I feel like we don't think like other nations think sometimes. We don't think in the terms of what's best for my community versus what's best for me. Not that other communities don't think of individual success, they do. But when it comes down to my community and your community, my individual success is sideways. This first is our people success. So that's why when you see a lot of Caucasians and you see them say things like, we got to preserve our race, and people, they get upset by that. But they're saying it because they understand the more numbers we have, the more people we have, and we put them in power, the more control we have. But as
Right.
melanated people, we don't think like that. We think a lot of times
No.
individually, like what can I do to help my circumstances and my family, rather thinking of how can I help my people and my community. Now, what I want to get into, I want to get into this whole raccoon situation, this whole raccoon situation. So we're
Okay.
talking about the industry, right? So you broke down to us what raccoons are. But what I want to know now is, are these rappers, these singers, these musicians that are now our leaders? And I say they're our leaders because Cardi B sat down with the president on our behalf and was basically having an interview with him. And Cardi B has a number one hit called The WAP. And y'all know what The WAP is. So I'm only saying that they do have influence, and they are essentially in positions of leadership. Otherwise, why are they sitting there meeting with our head chief? So I'm gonna play a small clip real quick, and I want you to answer to me after this clip. Do you believe that the music industry are so much the music artists? Are they a replica of the older raccoons that we think about, the blackface, eating watermelons? Are these the same group of people?
I am not black, nor do I consider myself to be black. Many people mistake me for being Negro because they don't know that I am currently living with the heartbreak of revitiligo. That's a skin condition that's the opposite of what Michael Jackson's got. Every morning I apply this topical ointment made of bleach and sulfur. I like to think it works. Luckily, I hadn't gotten much darker in the last few years.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is what's called a coon. What is a coon, you may ask? Well, to discuss this, we have to go all the way back to the 1800s in America, where the word was born. In a very short and digestible explanation, many white slave masters often describe their slaves as lazy, non-hardworking, slow-talking, slow-walking, inarticulate people that don't deserve freedom. A lot of white slave masters began to accept that idea, which then abbreviated the word coon to black people, and the word coon abbreviates from the word raccoon. Many early illustrations viewed black people with really dark skin, big red lips, big eyes, huge white teeth, and clothes that were all tattered up, and mainly showed them lying down and eating lots of watermelons. It wasn't long until this coon caricature began to show in entertainment.
Okay, so that was a small clip. You guys check the description box. I'm going to be playing a few more clips and then asking him questions. These clips come from other YouTubers. We want to show them support and love. So hit the description box and you'll see his full video that he did on raccoons and the history of raccoons as far as into the music industry. So go ahead and, like I said, all these clips I'm showing, go into the description box, show some love, show some support to some of these content creators. So do you agree with him? Do you agree that these raccoons have somehow been rolled over into the industry?
Yeah, there are coons in the industry, not everyone, but I do need to correct something that he said that's a misnomer. And that is that the term coon comes from raccoon. It absolutely doesn't, even though I know we're using that, as code
I'm only
here.
using it because
But
it sounds like it. But educate me, please, brother.
okay, so the term coon was a slander, and it was taken from a word called barracoon, all right, or barracoon. And a barracoon was a hut, or cage-like structure where captured Africans were held in confinement while waiting to be sent to the Americas as slaves. And so oftentimes, because they didn't know what their final destination was or the true purpose for them having been captured and the horror that was awaiting them, some of them believed that it was going to be similar to slavery that they experienced in Africa. So they didn't expect it to be as inhumane because in Africa, a lot of times in other places, slaves weren't always lifetime property. They were allowed to obtain their freedom. Sometimes they had rights, but you would have, especially with the advent of white slavers coming to Africa, sometimes they had this bad idea or misnomer that this was going to be a good thing. And so you would have these captured people having in eager anticipation of their unknown destination just based on the fact that their new captors were white and not black, because you did have some brutal black slavers also, in Africa. So they may have thought, just like people think today, that white folks' water is wetter and their ice is colder, that maybe the slavery would be better. And so a lot of times it's a captive. What it basically is a coon is a captive who's happy about their enslavement, but ignorant of the damage it actually is causing them. And so
Dang,
it doesn't come
that
from
is
the
that's
word raccoon,
wonderful.
but people think that.
We're still using raccoon though, but thank you for educating. Thank you for educating us. I just like raccoon because we get to really drag the end of that word, raccoon. That's why I like the word.
Yeah, because
It's
yeah.
fine, man. Thank you for educating us on that because I didn't know that. I didn't think it came from raccoon. I thought that was just too. I don't know. I just thought it was weird that it would come from something.
Yeah. There's nothing you can the like I said. A lot of people think that, and that's why we try to educate and teach so that we can dispel a lot of these things. Like earlier, there was a point I wanted to make about the whole idea with the elitism and things of this sort. That because you were asking the question about in the entertainment industry, and things of this sort. And so as we have the discussion and we unfold these things, you'll see how that coons are oftentimes created. And they're created by opportunities. I see one sister in the chat has said that most of them are actually educated and they have degrees. That's not necessarily true either. I don't like to use terms when it comes to stuff like this by saying most, but she's not completely off base. And that is that the ones that probably can do the most damage on a micro or level or political level, social level, are in positions where they're in the halls of power where yes, education is required, but entertainers, because they have such a large platform to influence people, can do just as much damage, if not more, because they actually sometimes snooze and get close to people that are in positions of political power, i.e., going back to the example you use of Cardi B talking to the president. Now, I'm not saying that she herself is a raccoon, but what I'm saying is the okie doke that gets pulled on us is put somebody on this platform with one of our, elites, and then let them speak for everybody else. But we didn't elect her. We
Yeah,
didn't send her. They did.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? Because the people that really have our best interests at heart oftentimes aren't given access, and that's because they won't compromise, they won't sell out, and things of this sort. And so when the dominant society,
but they only reach the ones that aren't going to sell out. Sorry for cutting you out. The ones that aren't going to sell out, aren't willing to watch the damage of their people and community go down. They're not reaching as many people.
well, because they don't have as big a platform. You had to think about it too. They examine people from a psychological and social perspective and see what people really want. That's why entertainment is so powerful. Music is the most powerful means of communicating the message. If you put something in a song, a child can learn it and they'll repeat it. They'll learn all the lyrics and all the words. They won't remember nothing in their science, history, or math books, but they'll remember a whole album and they'll be able to repeat it. You put it to a beat, it's a scientific fact. That's where we get the whole term
ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. That's how we learn. We learn
That's where we get the whole term being mesmerized from, because Dr. Mesmer did experiments where you put stuff to music, put you in a club-like environment with lights and things like that, going around, and you put a message over that, that tone or music, and people pick it up quicker. And they're mesmerized.
So I have a question about that then. So
that brings us to the music. Yeah.
Does music affect our youth? And before you answer that, does music affect our youth? It's crazy that you brought this up because that was literally my next question. Does music affect our youth? So let's check out a small clip real quick, and then I want to get your answer. Do you believe it affects our youth?
Music, particularly among adolescents, is a very powerful motivator of behavior. It wasn't so long ago that an entire war was turned on the basis of youth music with Vietnam. And music was really central to the counterculture and the culture that rose up and said, we're not going to take this anymore. I don't think we should underestimate the power of music, because music touches the limbic system, or the emotional system of our brain, which actually, though slower than other parts, can overwhelm all of the other parts. Think about how we lose our mind when we fall in love. And we literally do, because of the power of the emotion.
So the question is yours. Does music, I know you said it does, but I want you to get a little deep into that. Does music affect our youth? Because some people might say, why do we care what raccoons do? If a raccoon decides to go be a raccoon, and that's his business, who cares? But when we're talking about, we already talked about the political side of it, how they're put in these positions and they're not in the best interest of us, and they're not helping us as a people. So we see where that effects come from. But when we're talking about music, if a rapper or a singer says, I want to be a raccoon, why should we care? Does it affect our youth? Is it making a difference if a raccoon wants to be a raccoon in the music industry?
So it does make a difference, because now you're talking about influence, because record sales and them being able to enrich themselves is based on how many people are interested in their product. So you have to think about this. I'm reaching a large audience, by putting out a product with a message on it that becomes popular with the people, and I'm mesmerizing them, and they're being, seduced into this message and this way of thinking without even realizing it. Case in point, most people cannot quote Malcolm X or Martin Luther King except in bits and pieces. People will tell you, I have a dream, free at last, but they can't remember the bulk of that speech.
It's true.
But you know what they can remember? They can remember songs from the same era, such as War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Good God. Say it again. They remember Marvin. Look at these songs are 50 years old. Marvin Gaye, Mercy, Mercy Me. He was sending the message, the anti-Vietnam War message. We still remember the music. You see what I'm saying? James Brown, say it loud. I mean, when I was a kid, we was doing that. I'm black and I'm proud, right? Everybody, because why? It's music that carries a message across a medium that people gravitate to. They remember. It's said in such a way, it's catchy, right? And you don't have to be. Here's the other thing about music that's different from a lecture or a speech or a book. You don't have to be disciplined to pick up the message. See, if you're going to be a reader or a student that actually has to listen to a teacher, you got to have a disciplined ear and a disciplined mind to grasp what they're saying and then to meditate on it and think about it. But you can listen to a song walking down the street in your headphones or in your car or while you're cooking in the kitchen or sitting in the bathtub. People listen to their music on the toilet. Ain't nobody trying to listen to Malcolm X on the toilet. They'll listen to, you know, they'll listen to all of these other things that are entertaining because it catches the ear. You know, it catches the ear. I mean, there was a point when I was growing up where even we realized that, you know, like Sister Ashley said, it's picked up subconsciously, where even the power of comics, putting things in illustrations, word pictures. So as a kid, my dad started picking up, because there were some writers who started making Black history comic books. It became an easy way for kids to, we was already reading Spider-Man and, you know, and Superman and all that stuff. So now we start reading about Benjamin Banneker, Toussaint Louverture, and Frederick Douglass and different people like that, and Harriet Tubman in comic book form, which helped us retain the information because it was presented in a way in which we would understand it. We learned the Black national anthem. We shall over, you know, that whole song, all the verses and everything, you know, stuff like that. So we did these kind of things. But now think about this. You take a community of people and you begin to take people from within that community and you give them an opportunity to voice or express their creativity, but you monitor and control what they actually can express, because you know and understand that it's going to be destructive to them, not to us. And I'm going to make them rich for doing it, but I'm going to get even richer for letting them do it.
Exactly.
So there's an incentive for the record companies and the executives to allow it. Why? Because it's not destroying their community.
Yeah, and we're going to get into some stuff that is destroying their communities and what they fight for, all the way up to legislations, and they try to put them in laws. And we're going to get into those things that they care about. Yet we have evidence, like you said, scientific proof. You can use yourself as an example. I know me. I can hear a song that I heard 10 years ago, and it will take me right back to where I was when I heard that song. Sometimes I would even think about a particular person when I hear that song. I ain't seen that person in forever, but as soon as I hear that song, I can remember what I was doing, where I was at, and who I was with just from hearing that song. That's how powerful music is. So for anyone out there who's thinking like, you know what, raccoons are not in the music industry, or these raccoons that are in the music industry, they're just doing what they're talented at. There's no control in the background. It's no one behind them with the puppet strings or anything like that. Because a lot of times when I used to think of raccoons, I thought of the big red face and chucking and jiving and eating watermelon. That's what I thought as what a raccoon was, or what a raccoon looks like. But now, as I've been educating myself more, I'm realizing this thing goes way higher than it used to. To me, I used to think what it was, but now I'm realizing no, raccoons are everywhere. And it's to the point where now they've become our leaders. So for anyone who thinks that our black people still raccoons to this day, we're talking about rappers like Lil Wayne, who's a billionaire, right? Jay-Z, right. All these people. Lizzo, for example, would she be considered a raccoon? Before you answer that, I want to show a real quick clip.
Minstrel shows was an American racist form of entertainment in the 1800s that consisted of comic skits, dancing, and music performances that depicted people of African descent. White people often performed in blackface to portray black people in these shows. White people who dressed in blackface portrayed black people as dim-witted, lazy, superstitious, happy-go-lucky people, and the audience loved it, and it became massively popular.
So what are your thoughts on that? Would you agree with that, or any points you want to add to that?
That's historically accurate, because that's the other part of it. Because think about it, we weren't able to portray ourselves early on in theater, and so white people did it. And they always, that's what I was laughing at. That's why I put the laugh in it. I figure we're on multiple platforms, so that must be saying that. That's my brother.
You call you that. You did tell me that.
You always calling me Otis.
Oh man.
But no, that's absolutely right. And so that's how it started. But as you were showing the pictures of other entertainers, like Lizzo and little what Nas X, whatever his name is, and different things like that. You know, the idea of the coon once being lazy and shiftless and things of this sort, well, that has morphed. You know, in other words, the coon has graduated, you know, to a different, you know, type of stage. And I'm not necessarily even calling, like I said, the people that were just presented coons per se, but there is an aspect of coonery and buffoonery that goes with a lot of the things that we're seeing in entertainment among Black entertainers. A lot of our entertainers, you know, are very talented people, but they're being used. And so some of them is not a conscious idea or thought that I'm going to go out here and purposely deceive Black people and help them get destroyed. If they were to have that mentality, that would most definitely put them in the raccoon category.
Yeah.
You know, but some of them, I wouldn't be so quick to apply that label to them. As far as, do they actually think that's what they're doing, or is that what they're intentionally trying to do? But based on the impact it has on their community and the message that's being projected, I can see how others would easily say, well, that's exactly what they're doing. And here's the thing: when you don't give any thought to the impact of what you're doing is going to have on other people, and you put your own enrichment and success first, then to me, in my opinion, that is a form, you know, of raccooning, because you're willing to sell out at the risk of hurting or damaging someone else for your own, again, personal advancement. You know, and again,
About
one of the things,
about the crack era. You know, I hear a lot
right,
of people
right,
talk about, you know, crack came from the government, whether that is true or not. We're not going to get into that. But my point is, you were sitting on a corner selling crack to someone that looked like you, somebody mama, somebody daddy, skinny, sick, doing crazy stuff just to get it, and you're just giving it to them. Here you go, take this crack, Mr. Crackhead, and you're just lining your pockets. How is that not a conscious decision in your mind to say that? Why am I a part of this? This is
that's
bad.
cool. That right there, the stuff. Here's the thing that's interesting: the brothers on the street doing, you know, the street pharmaceuticals are just as much a part of the cult of that culture as the old time slave that dimed out every revolt, that
Yeah,
told on all the
yeah.
slaves that left the
Everybody got
plantation.
this.
Yeah, the only difference is, where rather, instead of them trying to help people or trying to prevent people, no, you know what? Let me say it like this: just like the uncle, I'm gonna say the ruckus. I'm gonna call it the Uncle Ruckus. Just like the Uncle Ruckus of slavery was trying to prevent slaves from escaping. Well, the drug dealer, the street pharmacist, the thug is doing the same thing. You're keeping your people oppressed by contributing to a cycle of death and degradation that keep them locked in. So now, you know, the neighborhood becomes the hood. It becomes the ghetto. Why? Because we're not neighbors no more. Now you customers. Now you enemies. You know, and so now you begin to destroy one another, and then you adopt the vernacular of the dominant culture that they use to insult you, and now you repeat that so much to one another, it becomes commonplace. And once we are no longer brothers or sisters and things of this sort, now we just become ops. We become that nigga, not my brother. We become, you know, that hoe, that B, not my sister. And so now it's easier to devalue the individual and destroy them because you don't see them as a person.
They don't have no
And
value.
that's one of the overreaching psychological aspects of the coon mentality. It eventually, it's always aimed at the destruction of one's own people that they came from. It's never aimed at the destruction of the other people that's overruling or overseeing you. You don't
Exactly.
see guys on the corners in white neighborhoods because they know they would be arrested and thrown out of there. They let the white neighborhood kill children drive into the hood. See, they don't go and destroy other people's communities, they destroy their own.
But
And
we,
then
but
what
we,
happens?
but we do that. We have that
Right.
mentality. That's my next
This
question.
what
Is
this what I'm saying. It's a lack of education and intelligence and ignorance on our part. Why? Because an environment has been created around us, because that to where now we begin to seek the lowest level. So we don't even see that the cage have been built because we don't see the bars.
Mm.
And so it's the illusion, that we are free because there's the chains are going, but you are still a slave in your mind, because look at what you perpetuate on your own people.
Exactly.
And then somebody come along like myself or others who begin to talk to a certain way or confront these things. And you know what they'll say? I'm the coon. I'm the sellout. I'm the this or the that, because I'm holding us accountable and I'm willing to confront us. But I'm going to be in the minority, even amongst the minority of my own people.
Which
And
makes
so that makes
harder.
Right. It's always an uphill battle. And that's why I believe people like my dad and a lot of the early civil rights leaders died young. You don't see very many civil rights leaders who lived to be in their 70s and 80s. The few that we have lasting now, well, they outlived the majority of their group. My dad died at 50. His dear friend, Stokely Carmichael, Dr. Kwame Ture, died, around the same time. And most of a lot of these people died young. And I think, to be honest with you, it's because of the stress.
Yeah,
that's what lifetimes took us to
group, like you said, you're a minority within a minority. But this is what I want to get on. Now that you have explained to us this whole mentality issue, us not realizing what's really going on because we don't see the bars, and we're just basically walking in the blind and thinking of only self gratification. What's going to get me up? How can I get a come up? Right? Why is it us as a people can't seem to be like these other nations and these other races that are like, this is bad for us, we don't want this here? And before you answer that, so anyone might say, well, what do you mean? No, we care. We do care. Yes, we do have a small group of people that do care, like you and me, and saying, look, I'm sick of this. I don't want my kids to be a part of this. I don't want them to have friends that are part of this. But as a whole group, it is not. We are the minority of the minority. But yet when you see these other nations and these other people, they can clearly stand up and say, no, this is not good for my children. This is not good for my people. And we're going to fight with the legislatures if we have to make a change. So what I want to know is, I'm going to play another small clip just as evidence to show that it's not, I'm not just saying this. It's literally something that's happening. These other races are able, Indians, Asians, Caucasians, they're able to say, no, we do not want this a part of our culture. And I'm going to show you a clip to prove just a little small piece of it. And then I want to know your thoughts on why are we adapting this idea of this self-gratification as a whole of a people? Not everybody, but a big part of us are like this. Why?
The court said banning the sale of violent video games to children violates the Constitution's guarantee of free expression. By a vote of 7-2, it struck down a 2005 California law signed by then-Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger that made it a crime to sell or rent video games depicting violence to anyone under 18.
In the past, we've protected them from alcohol and cigarette ads and pornography, and we felt that this was on that level.
Supporters of the ban said children become aggressive after playing violent video games, but Scalia said studies show Bugs Bunny cartoons produce a similar response.
In the past, the Supreme Court has said only a few kinds of expression can be banned, like obscenity or fighting words, and the justices today refused to add violence to that list.
So as you can see right there, they understand how video games now, not music, and we've proven the power of music. Video games, which is a powerful tool, it's a visual stimulator, and some of them have music in it too as well. So I guess you could say it's a double stimulator. But my point is, they can see video games have a negative impact on our youth. Some people who have been involved in school shootings, which you guys know the majority of kids that do school shootings are Caucasians. They'll tell you it's because of video games and bullying, and they will fight hard to try and get these things off they so-to-so streets. But us, we got the crack, we got the rap music, we got the gangster, we got these people out here, and we glorify them. And we listen to them and we support them and we buy their tickets and we allow our children to be around it. Why aren't we not thinking like these people, and more of us, because not all, but why are more of us fighting against this?
You know what? I'll say this: when it comes to the dominant society, it once it becomes an issue for them, even though it's been an issue for other people for a long time, that's when they take action. In other words, they only care that the thing is poison as long as it's not poisoning them. And so as long as it's destroying, other people again who they feel like they have the dominant position over, it's not an issue. And it's not until their children start listening to the music and their children start behaving and acting out and their children start to get hooked, on the drugs, and their children are starting to get arrested and going to, the jails and the prisons and things of this sort of happening. But by the time it becomes an issue for them, well, it's been a pandemic, it's been an epidemic for us for a long time. And so that's another thing in a society that's been divided based on race and based on economics, where you have one group who feels they're superior because of their skin color. And then within that structure, you have woven into it the elitist mindset where people feel that if they're of a certain economic level or status, that everybody else then is beneath them, because at that level, the color that matters most is green. It's not either black or white. All right.
All about the paper.
But right. And that's where a lot of our entertainers are trying to get to. And so they feel like my talent is what will elevate me above my blackness, because it's going to put me in the greenness. So I can now be, shoulder to shoulder with the whiteness. And so because that's, the people in societies world over they respect money and they respect power. They don't respect having a good heart. Okay? They don't. If you got a good heart and the best ideas in the world, but you don't have money and means, they don't care. And the scripture even talks about it. Says the poor have to ask for entreaties. In other words, they have to pray, they have to beg, they have to petition. And then it says, but the rich answer roughly. Why? Because they got the power to enforce their will, because they got the means to do it with. And so when you dealing with a group of people that's been historically kept at a certain position economically, politically, and socially, you can create an environment where they will become crabs in a barrel. And every crab is only concerned about its own welfare, trying to get out the barrel. And without even realizing it, people will become that. And when one gets out, they don't oftentimes reach back into the barrel to try to pull another crab out. Because when there's a fear, it's a double-edged sword. I'm out, I'm going, and then they don't want somebody trying to pull them back in.
Yeah.
At the same time. But it's like, I got out, y'all get out. Even though in order to get out, you had to crawl over and on top of a whole bunch of other people. So they forget how they got where they're at. Because once they arrive at that position or that place, they feel like, well, I don't need you no more. And you think about it with black entertainers in particular, especially with rap. White kids buy more rap music than black kids.
Go to the concerts.
Yes.
So
right. So when a black entertainer goes what we call mainstream, what they're really saying is, I done went white. The black folks that I used to, hone my craft among and build my initial audience with, well, I don't need them no more. If they stop supporting me, man, look at all these other, kids and folks. Asian kids love hip hop. So once I get out of my own community, it's almost kind of like, well, I can leave them behind. But how you got out of your community oftentimes was talking about things in your community in a negative and derogatory way that was helping to destroy your community while it was entertaining other people. And that's why other folks outside the community feel so free now to repeat what they hear in the lyrics. The stuff that we used to get offended by, when other folks would say it, well, we really can't get offended by it as much now, because why? They learned it in the song. That many times our people are singing and teaching them, and they're like, I'm just singing the song.
Not understanding the power that's behind
it.
So since you broke all that down, are rap artists 100% responsible for the destruction in their community regarding, we're talking about rap now. So these rap artists that's out here that are pushing poison. I'm not talking about the ones that some people might say aren't so bad, like Common. I'm talking about the people on the screen that you're seeing that's talking about violence, talking about drugs, talking about sex, talking about ops and things like that, what you were talking about. Would you say that these rap artists are 100% responsible? And before you answer that, I gotta play one more clip.
If you're an op, you're not an op. You're a decimal creator. You're not a nigga. You're an inventor of math. You're not a fuck boy. You create the internet.
Do I think hip hop has had a dangerous effect on the Black community? I think it's an unfair question. I think it's unfair because it puts all of the blame on predominantly Black artists, predominantly poor Black artists who are trying to get themselves out of poverty-stricken environments. 3 possibly major record labels who own all of this shit, right? Who are sitting behind their desk, usually predominantly white males who run or operate these companies, who are taking these young brothers off of the street and putting piles of actual cash on a table in a conference room and say, hey, if you continue to do that right there, that thing, this is all yours.
That was my boy Elgin. Yeah, that's my boy Elgin. Yeah, that's Big
I
L.
got the full
Yeah.
clips in the description. You got the full clips in the description. So go ahead in there and y'all check out that full video. It was really good. Check out the channel. I think it's called the Black Podcast. Yeah, I think it's called the Black Podcast. So y'all definitely check them out. It's in the description. But that question is yours. Are these Black artists responsible?
I'm gonna have to go with what my boy Big L said. He's up in the Philly area. Yeah, I've been knowing Big L for a few years now. That's where no, I would say that no Black artist could ever be, or entertainer for that matter, should ever be given 100% of the blame, because even though they're talented and they are creative, you gotta understand that doesn't mean they're educated. And this is one of the problems. We think that because somebody has a platform and that they're popular, that means they're also properly equipped to address the social ills and issues in the community, and they're not. They're just that. They're entertainers, and we have to keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that these people are psychologists, sociologists, economists, or politicians or any of those things. We give them too much importance, and then we put too much responsibility on them, and that takes a lot of times the accountability off of us. All these rappers, all these singers, all these performers, that's somebody's son and daughter who came up in oftentimes in the same communities all of us did, but they had a talent that they marshaled. And again, they were identified by someone who said, I can make money off of them. Remember, if the rapper is making all this money, how much is the record company making? We don't just control distribution and all of these other things. So you got people like Leo Cohen, who knows that the music is trash. He knows the damage that it's having, but it's making him rich. So he's not going to tell them not to do it. He wants them to do more of it. And so for them, the bottom line is what's going to create more dollar signs. And that's why I said at a certain level, the main color becomes green. How much green can this Black boy or this Black girl make me?
Yeah.
And the more green they make me, the more green I'll give them, and the less they'll care about the impact they have on other Black. Yeah. It's blinding you with the money. And so now I believe that I have achieved because it's better than what I had. If I grew up on government cheese and that big tub of butter, or hard times, and things of this sort where I didn't have both parents sometime in the house for a lot of us, or, I went to a school that wasn't supplied with the things that was necessary to make sure I got a well-balanced education. And I saw all these other things in my community because the government withdrew resources and support from us. Then I see my talent as my way out. A lot of these guys, everybody's not going to make it to the NBA. Right? There's 30 NBA teams with a minimum of 12 guys on the roster. We talking about 360 people max in the NBA that are millionaires. There's over 40 million, I think about 41 million black folks. Everybody ain't going to the NBA. Everybody ain't going to the NFL. Everybody, you got a better chance of being a doctor or a lawyer than you do at being a professional athlete. And so for a lot of black people, young black men, young black women in these depressed neighborhoods and communities, if they don't have someone to steer them into a opportunity or career, in education or something more productive, then what do they have? They have talent. So I can sing, I can rap, or I can run fast and jump high, or I'm strong. And if the athlete thing don't work out, then maybe I'll try to make it in music or all these other types of things. And so that's been what's happened to us for a long time.
And it glorifies it too. They don't glorify the doctor, the nurse, the veterinarian, the nutritionist. They don't glorify that. They glorify the basketball players, the football players, and the rappers. And it's something I wanted to get into because I feel like this is important. So I know you know about this era because I think it was a little bit before me, or it could have been in my era, the trap music. You heard of the trap music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So trap music.
In Atlanta.
Yeah.
The home of it.
So trap music, people who don't know about it, it's really just talking about the operations of a trap. And a trap is exactly what it's called, a trap. Because if you get caught in one, you trapped. But that's usually where they make, process, and distribute narcotics, drugs, crack, coke, whatever. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to show the progression in the music industry going from the trap music to drill music. They call it drill rap. So we got the trap music, then we got the drill rap. And to me, it's just a progression to the next level because a lot of these rappers, some of them did the things they said, but most of them didn't even do nowhere near the stuff that they're talking about. And they made it look way bigger than what it was. And then they glorified it. But now with this drill music, it's on a whole nother level. So first I want to show you guys something. This happened years ago. And us as Black people, we didn't have an uproar. We should have been protesting, just like we be in them streets when they take one of our brothers and sisters. We should have been in front of this museum that I'm going to show you guys in a minute. We should have been in front of this museum trying to knock it down, burn it down, and get rid of it. Let me play the clip for you guys about a trap museum.
Atlanta, Georgia, the rapper T.I., he has a trap museum. And in this trap museum, he has created a place where melanated people can go and they can, if never or if so, reminisce or even be a part of what they call a trap. And they even have mugshots of criminals, I believe. They even have commandments, I'm assuming, to help you be a better hustler or run your trap. They also have a refrigerator full of props, and I believe that's baking soda. And inside of the ice, it looks like there's some type of drugs, maybe. They even have walls that are made out of cocaine. They have rules talking about how the crack era caused young hustlers to go and create these trap spots and sell drugs and make drugs out of it. And it was okay as long as grandma's rent got paid. They have pictures of the table full of guns and drugs and other different things of those items.
So that is a trap museum out in Atlanta that T.I. actually created and made. It's crazy because we got schools out here that needs books and computers, and we got people out here that's hungry and need food. Not that I'm saying T.I. is not doing it, because he probably is still supporting other areas as far as our community that needs food and housing. I'm not sure in that part of what he could be doing, because he could actually be, putting some help out in there. But to me, we talk about the power of music and the influence it has on us. All of that goes down the drain when you create a trap museum and you glorify it. So what are your thoughts on that? The trap museum, and then we're going to get into the drill rap, but I want to talk about that trap museum first.
While I, again, talked about how it's easy for the executives and people to take advantage and mine our talent, that still doesn't alleviate us from accountability. Okay, because so that this is where the conversation gets tricky and it gets sticky, and now we begin to talk about the whole raccooning. Okay, because now it comes time to where we have to confront our people on buying into these things. And once you buy into those things, you sell out of your own community and you basically offer your people up as a sacrifice, so to speak. You know, everybody always talking about these industry sacrifices. Well, the biggest industry sacrifice has been the Black community. Whole
Yep.
Black community been one big sacrifice.
Yep.
All right. And it's in our sacrifices and our deaths. We be making all these conspiracy videos about this person gave their mama up for advancement. But the music and the entertainment that was being projected and the messages pumped against that, it caused way more deaths than just that one family member, or it destroyed other lives far beyond what people are aware of. There's way more sacrificing than that. So we think sometimes too small.
Yeah.
Because there's, again, what we're talking about is the effect on an entire community or group of people that are already in a depressed situation.
Exactly.
And so when you see that type of negativity broadcast, the
We
hypersexualism,
uproar.
yeah,
We like
yeah, right, the hypersexualism that's being, broadcast, with Lizzo's a beautiful girl. She don't need to be out there shaking her cheeks and moving around her rolls
playing the
and
flute.
stuff like this,
Playing the flute.
right?
While
But
playing the flute.
that's right. I mean, we went from Beyonce to Beyonce. And so now it's just, we got too much of this stuff out here that don't really promote positive, wholesome images that would repair and rebuild broken people and broken communities. Because we're being projected and peddled things that continue to keep us broken. So while we are enjoying it, we don't understand that we're celebrating our own destruction.
Yeah, just
So
like
we clapping at our own demise, right?
Exactly.
We're cheering it on.
Just like the Planned Parenthood, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, that's not what we're talking about. But when you look at Planned Parenthood, 80% of Planned Parenthood clinics where they do, they unalive the babies, is 80% of them are in minority community, Hispanic and melanated people. Why are 80% of Planned Parenthood clinics in our communities? Why? So we want to argue about my body, my choice. Da, 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 da. We're not paying attention to the bigger picture. Why do we have so much access to this? And why are they not in the other communities? Are these women not in control of their bodies too? Do they not also want to be able to go and get that procedure done? Why is it in our communities? So it's like the same thing with
I say this. The reason you see Planned Parenthoods in Black communities predominantly is the same reason, why people make decisions on where they're going to put garbage dumps. In other words, I'm going to put it as far away from the most important parts or places so that it won't contaminate those places. So because that area or community or that situation is less valued. So they look at our communities as a human garbage dump. They already waste. So just help get rid of more of them. And so it's the same, and even though it's not the exact same thing, it's the same mentality. The value on the people is low. So it's easier to determine that the people got to go. And then and so again, the transition or the progression, the trap music to the drill music, well, these are just subgenres of gangster rap. That's all they are. It's not really new music. It's just they just put new labels on the same music, and it's and they pumping it differently. Whereas the trap music coming out of the South, we had you got the drill music coming out of Chicago, so to speak. It's the same message. Because think about this, drilling is all about, they use that term colloquially for shooting people, getting into it, or going out and getting some type of rambunctious activity or behavior. Well, that normally is a result of trapping.
Well, yeah,
I got to protect my product and protect my neighborhood, protect my piece of territory.
It's a small drill music is a small piece of the trap music, but this is a difference. When trap music was out, it talked about unaliving people, protecting the product, keeping your turf. Drill is just a small piece of the trap music, right? But I feel like drill music went to another level. This is why, because trap music, it never identified individuals to where it felt like it was in our back door. We knew it was there. We talked about it and everything. But with the drill music, so people who don't know what drill music is, these are people that are bragging about taking the life of someone else. And then the other clique that the life was taken from will then take someone from their life and then brag about it. They will go on top of their, what they call ops cemetery. They will go on their cemetery, their grave, and they would rap, sing, and dump liquor on top of their op grave site. We did some stuff back then, at least when I was growing up. But we would never go that far. Are you crazy? We would never do that. So I feel like drill music kind of takes it to another level. I think it started a lot more violence that was already there. I think it just took it to another level. But I want to play a small clip real quick for people who don't quite understand what drill music is, because I saw someone commenting about it. And then I want to get your commentary on the whole drill music saga, since we're in it right now.
Even though Duck was far from his hood, his enemies tracked him down and ended his life in a busy public street. Not only did they take Duck from his family and fans, but also in drill music fashion, those responsible had to take credit for it in their songs dissing the dead. FBG Duck was beefing with a rival Chicago gang, and through their music, they would consistently diss each other's fallen brothers, boosting tension between the gangs. I'm not saying gangs and crimes weren't present in Chicago before, but we cannot neglect that drill music hasn't increased the problem and has made it much worse. Drill music is death music. It is music glamorizing the destruction of one another. While record labels make millions, the artists lose friends and maybe even their own lives. The rappers also spread the destruction to their fans that listen to the music, who want to be just like them, to continue the cycle.
So when we see about the drill music, right, there's an artist by the name of King Von, and a talented brother. He's a rapper, and he recently lost his life, I believe, a year or so ago. He was a real life like gangster, not like no play like some of the ones we had growing up. It was some people that we found out that we used to listen to that was never in no gang, actually worked for the corrections. We had people coming in that we thought were gangsters, and couldn't find out they were working in real estate and things like that. So it was a show, and it still was effective in keeping our people down, but it was a show. With the drill music, the music industry, this is what they're doing. It's like it blew my mind. So they're finding real life gangsters, thugs that's really taking people's life. Well, serial killers, because that's what they are. They're serial killers. And they will put them in a record and put them in the studio, give them everything they need, the music, the tracks, the beats, the look, the clothes, everything they need, build them up so everybody can see. And then those people get up and start rapping about everybody that they unalive. And King Von was one of those people.
That's the other thing. It's the progression of the music is a regression in the community. So it's Brother King said in the chat earlier, and I saw his comment, and he made a good point. He said the weird part to me is most white people buy it, but we act it out. And there's a reason behind why that happens. And that's because the idea, think about some of the cliches and sayings we have, keeping it real. So we know that authenticity sells. When gangster rap started out, most of the dudes who blew up were not gangsters. Ice Cube, I lived in Southern California most of my life. I know Ice Cube ain't no gangster. I know he ain't, because I know the gangsters. So I'm saying, he's not a gangster. But he was the most successful, for at least for a while, gangster rapper. And the question had always been, from the time that NWA started, when are the real gangsters going to actually make the music? Because the only real gangster in NWA at the time was Eazy-E. He was the real gangbanger. And then Ren was his homeboy, but Eazy was active. He was, and so you really had him out there. So when you started to see the real gangsters get into the rap industries and thing of this sort, the whole thing about being authentic, because they start calling other people out. But for the longest time, the guys that were big time in the industry or in that genre of music weren't really doing what they were rapping about. And then a weird thing happened. And I watched this happen. Because there was so much pressure put on them to actually be what they said, you would have guys all of a sudden start doing things after they've achieved success and then destroying their whole life.
It makes no
because they wanted to prove that I'm really what I rapped about, And so you got guys even today like Chris Brown and then Soulja Boy and different ones. They didn't wait until they grown, and now they want to join the Bloods. They want to be in a gang. Like most people that join gangs, it happens early, like 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, and you from that community, that neighborhood, and then you get in. You don't become a successful multi-million-dollar entertainer and then decide, I want to go get jumped in the gang. That's stupid. That's stupid. That was
like T.I.'s son. I don't even get, like, he's a product of this fake fantasy world. Not that T.I. didn't get in trouble for real, because he did. He was one of those people that made it and then decided, I still want to get in trouble to show that I'm still a gangster, like you said. And now his son, who has no type of ties with that type of lifestyle, has never been around that type of stuff. Now he's actually mimicking what his father has been pushing, this poison in our community this entire time. But what I want to do is I want you to finish your thought, but anyone who wants to come on up, you guys, we're going to get into the Q&A portion. Anyone who wants to either comment on what we've been discussing or ask Mr. Blacktastic any questions, or kind of just pick his mind on anything that you think he might have said that you kind of want to discuss a little bit more about. I put the link in the chat. I see you guys are real active tonight. I appreciate the love. Please like, subscribe. But hit that link. I want you guys to come up. We got to get the conversation started. The more that we can talk about this and pick each other's minds and learn about each other's perspective, the more the information will get out to the people and the more change we can make within our community. With that being said, if you guys like what you heard so far, send some donations to Cash App, Let's Talk Podcast 55. We'll appreciate any love, any support that you guys can send our way. But with that being said, we'll wait for a couple people to hit the link. Y'all come on up here and you can go ahead and finish your statement, what you were talking about.
So this drive for authenticity, it really just shows how broken our community is mentally. The whole keep it real thing. We have a lot of things that have been promoted through the venue of entertainment that really we need to get out. The whole stop snitching thing. Now we can't even get crime solved in our community and bring justice to our own people because folks, don't be snitching. And stuff like this. No, these Negroes are out here shooting people and breaking in their house and raping folks. Snitch on them all day long because they need to be locked up. Stop with this free my homie. No, your homie need to be in jail. There's like I said, we've gotten away from too many things. Like I said, the music oftentimes is a reflection of a broken moral compass, amongst our community. And this is where you're not going to have a large group of people like how we get galvanized and go out and hit the street and do all this marching and protesting when white police officers brutalize or kill a black man or a black woman, but we don't do it amongst ourselves when we're doing it to ourselves. Well, you're only going to have a few people that's going to be willing to do that. But if you got what I call a focused few that's willing to do that and be consistent in addressing those things, you can get a lot done. And it's just going to take more than what we have. I mean, I'm a Bible teacher, so I do use principles from scripture. Yeshua said the harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. So one of the big obstacles that we face in our communities are we never have enough people that want to actively address the situation and get involved. We talk about the situation. We complain about the situation, but are you going to get involved and go out there and address the situation? And this is where we have to be held accountable, in order to find solutions. And like they said, I don't believe in marching works anymore. I don't either. That's why I don't do it. I don't stop nobody else from doing it, but I'm not putting mileage on my feet to go out there for the same thing. Yeah, I mean, I would rather go out to where I know the problem is and then address it head on and confront it head on. And so that's why I'll go to the prison and talk to the shot callers, because a lot of stuff happened on the streets. It started in the prison. They create the politics. They set the ground rules. And so you got to follow the thread to where, the ball of yarn is, because that's where it's coming from. And so you got that issue. Then you got to go to people's, you have to find out what's the environment that these young men and young women are being raised in. Maybe they need a mentor or some issues that's not being addressed. And then this is where the problem can be addressed more comprehensively, and why you got to start approaching it from not only a position of politics, because with politics, a lot of people don't want to get involved, but Black folks, you need to be educated on politics, at least on the local level, because it has an impact on these kind of things when we start talking about approaching the situation with comprehensive solutions, because it helps allocate and legislate funds, resources, and other things to your community where you can start to change people's direction and focus. So all of that stuff comes into play, but everything starts at home. It starts at home. We can't complain about the system if we won't fix the home. People come from, the system is broken because homes are broken. So you got to address the home first. What's happening in the house, and things of this sort, because, the drill rappers are rapping about things they're doing, but what makes them believe they can do that, and what made them feel that that's okay?
Yeah, where did this mindset come from? With that being said, all right, we got Zadok up first. Zadok Godhop, what's good? Got any questions for our brother? Any comments? I see you there, but you mute. You got to unmute your mic. All right, so I guess we'll give him time. Let's go to Empress, because I don't hear Zadok coming off the mic. Empress, unmute your mic. Do you have any questions you want to ask Mr. Blacktastic? Any comments?
Not really any questions. I think you pretty much summed it up. It is it's unfortunate, especially me being in the education system. I see how the music does have effect on the students. I have students who have been A students since 8th grade in high school. You know what I mean? And of course, it's environment as well, but music plays a large part. I even have students when I, explain to them certain situations and scenarios, they backtrack. They're like, oh, we're in this song and in this song, they actually recite lyrics. They recite lyrics to make their point, when they're not supposed to be doing what they're really supposed to be doing. So it is definitely impacting the youth. I just wish that there was a lot more, artists out there who would actually, instead of saying, oh, I'm grown and your kids shouldn't be listening to my music, and your kids shouldn't, it's impossible to do that. You know what I mean? They have to go out into the world. They're gonna, even if I did tell my daughter, okay, don't listen to any music in the house, well, she's got to go outside.
Not just that. When they say stuff like this, it drives me crazy, because you have people like Lizzo that's on Sesame Street. So if I'm a kid and I'm watching Sesame Street and they're talking to Lizzo, oh, Lizzo, she's playing the flute. Now I go on YouTube and I type in Lizzo playing the flute, because kids are smart. If they come out at 2, they fucking phone. So if I saw Lizzo on Sesame Street playing the flute, I'm gonna go on YouTube, hit the little recorder, and say Lizzo playing flute. And next thing you know, we're gonna see cheeks everywhere. Cheeks to the left, cheeks to the right. Zadok, what's good, Zadok?
I heard Lizzo and Cheeks. Beautiful day. Beautiful day. Hey, what's up, sis? What's going on? Hey, salute, Blacktastic. Hey, good stuff, you guys.
What's up, my brother?
What's up, Otis? What you doing on David Ruffin's stage, boy? Hey, that's my guy right there.
Temptations, no more.
Oh, look who done showed up.
Oh, you kind of break.
On
You
that
kind of.
rehearsal, David. Okay, Otis, you was right.
We can hear you, but you froze.
Very good
Yeah,
topic.
your face. There you go.
Oh,
There you go.
You back now. You back now. Well, now you froze again.
okay, I'm in a good
You ain't
space.
froze
Okay, I'll
again,
stop
bro.
here. Hey, y'all, this is a pretty good topic. I'm frozen again.
No, we can hear you. You're
Frozen
frozen, but
again.
you can hear. You
Can
can.
hear you.
How?
You're going in and out, but we can hear you.
Yeah, your video's not good, but your voice is.
Yeah, we can hear your voice, but your video just going in and out.
And you know, something that's interesting to me, like when we were talking about the drill, I do think that question that you asked is important, like who holds fault, and these artists definitely hold a part of the blame, and then of course so does the big industry machine. But you know what's interesting about stuff like drill, trap? The industry didn't make it up. They found something that was popular and already existed for years under their radar. They was pissed they wasn't making money off of it. When you had these kids in Chicago who for 10 years was selling their own music within gang infested neighborhoods on the south side and the west side of Chicago. And when a record company find out that a young black boy, 17 years old, is making some kind of unknown gangster music that the industry not familiar with, and he's selling 100,000 units for $10 a piece in the streets on his own, they said, wait, hold on, this 17-year-old made $1 million on his own. If we put our machine behind him, we could probably turn that into 100 million because it's capitalism. And so unfortunately, we, the consumer, hold a big part of the blame, because nothing you want, it's like football. Football is very popular, but I know a whole bunch of people who don't care nothing about football. They're not waiting for Sunday to sit down in front of the TV and watch a game because they saw it and it don't attract to them. So there is also a side of all of us, and the music is a micro that's indicative of the macro heart of our people. And one thing that we hate to admit is that there is a darkness in us. And when someone presents, hey, yo, you like this? You like, oh yeah, I like that. And then someone else will hear it and be like, nah, bro, that ain't my speed. So it's a choice. And these guys are getting rich, these artists and the industry that helps propagate them gets rich because of the taste of the palate of the consumer. If the consumer says we don't accept that, then it goes nowhere because it's capitalism. So you have the industry, you have the artists, and then you got the consumer. All of those people share a third of the pie.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on that right there, because that's another aspect of it. 'Cause I saw someone ask the question, who's behind it? And well, it's a lot of people behind it. You know, it's not any one group that's behind it. Again, these artists created the style. They created it, and it started hitting with people. Like one, you know, I'm 51 years old now, so I've done a little bit of living. I've seen some things. You know, I was around when hip hop started. You know, I thought I was gonna be Turbo from the movie Breaking, and I went to school and started wrapping my pants up and headbands. I did all that stuff, break danced, and rapped myself. I did all that stuff too. So I seen how the whole hip hop genre and everything started. I remember the first gangster rap song. It actually didn't come from the West Coast. It was Schoolie D from Philadelphia. When he made PSK. And then he came out with Looking at My Gucci. It's about that time. He was the one who started in it. But then when it got to the West Coast, it went to another level, and then it circulated and went around. There was a whole genre of conscious rap, as they called it, where people were supposed to be uplifted. We had Public Enemy. We had all these things. But music executives saw that stuff don't sell as well as the gangster stuff. And so music in the hip hop genre started changing, just like it did in R&B. Back in the day in R&B, you had Lenny Williams, girl, you know, I know he loved you, you know, but then
I cried on that song.
every and it's right. Even when you had it overtly sexual.
I think I was like 12. I was like,
See, you know, those are love songs. Even when it was overtly sexual, Marvin Gaye was talking about sexual healing and stuff.
Yeah.
It was still at a level where people found it acceptable. Music as a whole have changed. Now you got guys just saying, I want to beat it up, eat it up, mix it up, toss it up. There's no mystery to it.
Whoa!
Yeah,
This a family show. Whoa!
I'm just saying, it's no more mystery to it. You know what I mean? Even in between the shit, he said, "Hey girl, ain't no mystery," but he was censored with it. They ain't censored with it no more in R&B, so they ain't gonna be that way in rap. So now they literally talking about what they did. You go back to the Ghetto Boys.
Yeah,
I remember some of their earliest songs, man. Them things were so candid and vivid with the violence that they was talking about doing and stuff like this. You always had the precursors and predecessors that set the stage. And it's like the music industry says, we're going to try this out and see what we can get away with. But then we, as the public, allow them to get away with it. And so they keep pushing more and more and more and more on us. You know, and so this is what Rosette was saying, the consumer, we have to hold ourselves accountable too. Because see, as a consumer, we have the power to shut down anything if we stop supporting it.
Exactly. So a lot of it really falls on us, a big part of it, because the artists, the labels, they can't do anything without us. That's what it really comes down to, because that's how powerful the green dollar bill is. So at the end of the day, it really falls on us, like what Zadok said and what you said. But Akeem, you want to add to the conversation? I see you done hit the link. What's up? What's up? What's up? You gotta unmute your mic.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, what's up?
So y'all brought out all these good points, man. I can't even piggyback off of that. All I'm gonna do is take it back to the Bible, because that's my foundation. I know everybody don't want to hear it, but you know, but it just goes back to, you know, we talking about drill music and trap music and just the negative effect on our people, but we're not thinking about the origin of it. You know what I'm saying? When you take music going all the way back, you know, who was the angel of music? You know what I'm saying? It was the enemy, right? And then with that being said, knowing his agenda and what he wants to do and keep us disconnected from the Most High, you gotta think back to what is the purpose of the music. You can listen to one song and it could make your emotion be drawn towards something romantic. It can make your emotion change your emotion to make it be drawn to something, you know, exciting. It can be drawn to make you want to get out and go and fight somebody. And when we realize the effects of music in general, being able to, you know, change our emotional state in our mind state and enhance, you can go to a house party and they playing old trap music, drill music, all of that, and it hype you up, and next thing you know, people fighting, people getting shot obviously it helps if there's people that's beefing that's there, but all of that gets enhanced, and the music, the atmosphere, all of that gets enhanced. So, you know, if you go back to just trying to instill those basic principles, those biblical principles into the home, right? Because like you said, it starts with the home. Then you'll start to, you know, kind of see an increase of awareness. I won't say it's gonna end all the situations and stop all the problems, but it'll increase the awareness, knowing that if you know your enemy is in the music that you're listening to, you'll be more cognizant of the music that you listen to.
Thank you. I agree with that. You want to speak on that real quick, Mr. Blacktastic?
Yeah, I was gonna say too, it doesn't matter a lot of times how well you raise your children in terms of what they're going to listen to. What shows how well you raise your children is what they do, even after they listen to it. And what I'm talking about in terms of is the creators of the content, what's going on with them. Because like we already pointed out, the music was created by people that were having a particular experience. So they're putting on the record what they're actually doing, what they're living. They're actually putting their crimes on the music. They're naming their ops on the music. And to the average person, even to a person that we would consider a square, that's not living that type of lifestyle and maybe lives in the suburbs, that's exciting to them. And music makes the message more enticing. Doesn't mean they're going to go out and do it, but they listen to somebody else do it or who has done it, and they live vicariously through them. And then the message gets spread around because it becomes more popular. And then eventually you do find that person that's of a much more weak mind or will that now wants to do what they just heard this person talk about. And like I said, there's things in our culture that we do have to address, such as the whole thing of keeping it real. Well, the problem is we want to keep it real about the wrong things. We want to keep it real about murder. We want to keep it real about, I got a whole bunch of women. We want to keep it real, about WAP. We want to keep it real about a lot of the wrong things and not keep it real about the right things. And so, again, the message is being projected, but we as the receptors, as the audience, have also the choice to make as to whether or not we're going to shut it down. You can make the record industry go broke if you stop supporting it. Because once they see it don't make money and it don't sell, then they got to withdraw funding.
Absolutely.
And so the power is always going to fall on the people. It's always going to fall back on the people. But again, when we're dealing with, again, the artist and why is the music being made, this is where you got to go back and approach and see what the etymology of it is, because this wasn't nobody sitting at lunch in the 3rd grade and one day and saying, one day I'm gonna wake up and start rapping about murdering people. No, they were probably traumatized from the 3rd grade up to a particular age. And that's their life, that's their experience, because that's the environment they're in. And that's all they got to talk about. So this is where I'm talking about. It got to be some comprehensive strategies. But again, we got to be willing to go into these places sometime and confront these situations, and these issues. But just like the community got to be held accountable, I do believe that artists also have to be held accountable. Because once I show you and tell you and teach you, brother, you can't fall back on your fame and look at me as a lame because you've achieved. You didn't build your wealth on the bodies and bones of people. And there's a accountability that has to be, you got to be held accountable for that too. You've inspired destruction. You've inspired degradation. And yeah, you came out of it, but so did other people like myself, like Zadok, but we're not doing it. So you can break free, but do you want to? And that's the question. And that's where we also did bring in the record executives. They present them the money, give them the opportunity, and then offer it's always the compromise. So which choice you gonna make? And like my brother said, he used the scripture. So the same question, whose side you gonna be on? Moses asked the folks, who's on the Lord's side? What side you gonna be on? Are you gonna help save the community, or are you gonna help continue to contribute to its destruction while enriching another community that you're producing the music for, who has backing you and enriching themselves? You see what I'm saying? Because that music ain't building new schools in our communities. It's not building, after school programs. It's not helping people get educations and scholarships. But you know what? The record executives that's helping to promote that music, guess what? Their kids going to the finest schools. Their neighborhoods got the best schools. See, they enrich themselves, back their political pundits to legislate what they want. In the meantime, our artists only care that they got bling bling and can go on TV and be on platforms and giving awards. But meanwhile, the communities they come from are dying because they're not going back and contributing like these other folks who are benefiting from them. Those people leverage our success into power for them. Our people oftentimes leverage their success into just more money for themselves. And I have to say that because, again, if we, and then we get, like I said, the elitist mindset. I didn't separate it. I didn't made it. I made it out.
But
I made it out. Now I'm away. Now, and so that's a lot of what happens. You get out and then forget who's still left in.
But I have a question for you, and then I want to get to Zadok if you want to add anything to that, Empress, because then we're going to close it up soon. But and Zadok, you can answer this if you like, and then I definitely want to hear from you, Mr. Blacktastic. Would that make the consumer a raccoon to an extent?
Well, I would say no. They're just American. It was the free American citizen who enjoyed the entertainment of the coon and the caricature of black people. The people who sit in the audience, the white man who sat in the audience was not the coon. So the black man who sits in the audience is not the coon. I don't really believe that there's a such thing that much as black culture. I believe that it's black contribution to American culture. We sat back and didn't get to participate in so many ways. America glorified the gangster in Hollywood films of the 40s and 50s and on. So the John Dillingers and the Billy the Kids, the Wild West and the Outlaw, that was glorified to us. It got to a point where they started to make movies with a character who was an outlaw, who was a lawbreaker, but because the sheriff was corrupt too, you found a way to root for the outlaw. And so now, the Al Pacinos of the world and the De Niros of the world can play characters that have helped harm us. I don't think that Scarface nor Michael Corleone, I don't think that those characters helped the black community, but it wasn't made for the black community. It was made for America. African Americans are the epitome of what it means to be American. What we're showing through hip hop is not reminiscent of a culture long past that we come from. We saw the music industry that was created in certain waves, and our own style and ability to do music, we stepped in there. When you watch the 5 Heartbeats and John Witherspoon is playing a radio host and he say, we going out tonight and you better believe my hair gonna be fried, dyed, and laid to the side. What was the conch? It was the effort to look more like the Caucasian American. When you look at the Barbie today, when you look at how these young women portray themselves with the straight flowing hair and the big eyelashes and some getting breast augmentations. This is that Jessica Rabbit thing. It is to look like the voluptuous white woman. And it's not that I have anything against white women, but we have seen what's been perpetuated in front of us. And when we got the chance to hold the mic and the screen and do our version of it, this is the outcome. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll was around way before hip hop.
All right. You wanna piggyback on that, Mr. Blacktastic?
Oh, I don't have myself on mute. Okay. I do differ with Zadok on this point. I do believe there's black culture. There is American culture, but within America's structure, each ethnic group has their own culture. I believe that's unique to them, but that contributes to American culture overall. The reason why I say that is because that was an excellent point to bringing up Scarface and Michael Corleone, because you see a lot of rappers got those posters up in their house, and the big portraits and pictures. But you know what a lot of them don't have? They don't have the 70s exploitation characters up there, like Superfly, and like Sweetback, that Melvin Van Peebles created. And see, I'm old enough now to remember some of the discussions and things that I can characterize as uniquely black culture, because just like Scarface and The Godfather had a negative impact where people wanted to gravitate to the image of the gangster, well, there was a time in the black exploitation genre where when you had the first black exploitation film produced by Melvin Van Peebles, financed by Bill Cosby, Sweetback's Badass Song, which is still available on the internet, he was a brother that went through all these different things. And what happened was he escaped. He made it across the border to Mexico. You had Superfly come up, the hustler that got out the game. The reality, and so it gave this false impression to a lot of Black folks that I can escape, I can get out the game, I can do all of this to the point where I can escape and get out the game. So we had that mentality, and the truth of the matter is, you don't normally get out the game, you get killed by the game. All right, you don't normally escape. You get imprisoned. And so you also had negative images from that regards. And then most of the movies, that was made during that particular period of time, that's where we start being classified as always playing the pimp or the drug addict or the thug, and things of this sort, the abusive man and things of this sort. And people saw those images, and that's how they started to define Black culture. And then we even started to gravitate to that stuff and define ourselves. Our heroes became the anti-hero and all of these types of things. If somebody was too straight, they was a square. We didn't want them. So we gravitated to a lot of the negativity and then created, like I said, within our culture, these images. And that's what started to get promoted through the music. People only refer back to Malcolm X when it's convenient. They use the Panthers to inspire and spark up nostalgia, but they don't really understand what the Panthers were about. And then they started calling Martin Luther King a coon and a sellout and all these other things, not to understand this man sacrificed his life, and people didn't even really understand how militant Dr. King really was. He didn't get killed for having a dream. He got killed because he woke up and demanded a check. But see, our community, in our confusion and lack of understanding of our own history and our experiences here, we, like I said, we overlook and are unaware of a lot of the things that have happened to us and how they happened and how they impacted and affected us. And so we look for escapes, and that's why entertainment is so enticing and seducing to us. Who don't want to go home after a hard day or after dealing with a hard ordeal and listen to some music that take your mind away from this? I had to start listening to a lot of the young men that I deal with, because I was looking at a thread all the time on the internet that some of them were on about this dude, NBA Youngboy. Now I'm old enough to be the man's father, but I read, I know his reputation and all this stuff. And I'm listening to this song that they got on there, and I'm looking at the comments, and these folks are telling me oh man, he makes my day so much better. And the music is crazy. But I'm trying not to be the old man to get off my lawn guy. But it's not making no sense to me at all. It sounds ridiculous. And they sit up there going, oh man, he's made my day. Oh, I could just listen to this and just chill out all day. And I'm like, dude, you hear what this man talking about? But see, for them, the impact that's having on their psyche is the same way I listen to jazz.
Yeah. But the impact of their music is probably going to be a little different long term than what jazz would be for you. I want to get to BA real quick.
They identify with what he's saying because he sounds as crazy as they feel it.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
You do sound crazy. All I be hearing is, like that's I don't know what they be talking about. I be so confused.
Right. And then Sister Empress got to deal with it at school. And as an educator, I was afraid of that. She sees it.
Yes.
But BA,
I do. TikTok all day.
Yeah, because you were in high school with them kids. BA Abide, I want to hear from you real quick. Give you a chance to speak.
Sometimes it's kind of hard to cut behind the elder Isaiah, man. So all I can do is just I had something in mind, but sometimes when you're amongst the elders, you have to be slow to speak. So I would probably just it's hard to come back after that because some of those things I wanted to say myself. So so yeah, I may have to we may have to come with another question or start another rotation. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're in the music. Well, you do music. So you do music for people who don't know. So you understand the impact it has. And what I want to know from your standpoint as an artist, because I know Zadok does music as well, but since I have you on, your standpoint from an artist, how do you look at it, especially before you started becoming more, I guess, woke, so to speak? to what was going on around you? What was your position when you were in the music industry? Or you still are, but
Well, I would say my experience, I had, me being from Southside Sacramento, the mindset I had was gang banging, selling drugs, committing all types of crazy, just doing the typical usual stuff for most black males who grew up in the hood. That was my first, as me as an artist, like taking it into my own hands and rapping. Prior to that, I was introduced to Chuck D and Tupac, because that's all my mom would listen to, Public Enemy and Tupac and Outlaws. You know what I'm saying? So that was my origins growing up. But then as I grew and I got to be of a certain age and started rapping myself, I was influenced by a lot of the Northern California rap scene, like guys like Sibo, Yuck Mouth, and various other dudes who was just talking madness, talking the basic street stuff. And then even me back then, it just felt like I was saying certain stuff, but a lot of the things I was rapping about, I was lying, because I sold a couple of weed sacks. I did a little bit of this, I did a little bit of that, I did a little bit of partying, I did a little bit of drinking and smoking or whatever. But talking about busting pistols, and I never did that before. You know what I'm saying? So as time progressed, I just got to a point as I got older that it was probably best for me just to stick with the word of the Most High as I got into it. Because prior to me even, like, I think for me personally, as I started really getting into the word, and I'm still learning myself, I ain't fully there. You know what I'm saying? I still make my mistakes. I ain't no expert. But when I was fully getting in, I told myself if I was going to do music, I still had the nigga in me. I was still using foul language. I was still doing this and still doing that, doing things I should not been doing as a so-called believer in the word. And I think the one thing that got me to the point where I'm at now is that I used to sit up on the Sabbath on Skype, listening to the Nazarene Messianic Party, brothers such as Zadok at that time, and various other elders. And I used to sit down and listen to them teach. And I would write lyrics as I listened to them teach. So that right there, because at that time I had kind of lost my love for writing. I had a couple of opportunities to where I almost got signed by a label. It didn't fall through. So I was kind of just heartbroken, just throwing the towel. But something told me to never stop writing, just keep writing. So a couple years passed by, I would listen to brothers such as Zadok, Judah Emil, Brother Biz Claiborne, Absolute Bible Truth. And as these brothers would teach, I'll be sitting there writing raps. Like I remember Zadok used to be on every Tuesday night, The Growing Stone on Blog Talk Radio, and I would just listen to Zadok. And while I was listening to Zadok, I'm writing 16 bars. Then from there, I'm writing songs and hooks. There was times where I would listen to Zadok, I would write a hot 40 bars just like that. But it was pertaining to the topic of the subject matter that he was talking about. Same thing with Judah Emil. One thing about Zadok and Judah, I consider those two brothers top elite teachers. You know what I'm saying? Because Zadok more so influenced me to write from a spiritual aspect. Judah provoked me to write for more so of a social political aspect. So I decided to go that direction with my lyrics, talking about the social structure, critiquing the social structure, and implementing biblical imagery of what Zadok was showing me through his teachings. So as I got to that point, I started to feel better because now I can rap about things I can relate to because I'm reading the Word of God. I'm reading Karl Marx. I'm reading Vladimir Lenin. These are materials and sources I'm reading from. I'm reading about the Reconstruction period after the Civil War. I'm reading about the Civil Rights Movement, reading on Marcus Garvey, reading on all these different sources and information. I can actually speak about it because I'm reading about it and I'm knowledgeable about it. So now my lyrical content, for those who listen to my music is not the typical type of gospel. Some Israelites have told me, you ain't an Israelite, the way you sound, that ain't Israelite music. I remember an Israelite brother, a sister told me, she asked me, she said, you do music for Israel? I said, no, I do music for the Most High. She stopped talking to me.
But you know, this goes back to what he was talking about. Weren't you talking about that earlier, Mr. Black Tactics? You were talking about how a lot of these artists, they don't know, they're not educated, they're not informed. And he said himself, I started rapping about what I could relate to. So these people that's out here doing this drill music, drill rap, whatever you want to call it, they're uninformed, uneducated. This is their surroundings, and this is what they're related to. This is what relates to them. And then you got that big fat cat behind them saying, "Hey, I'll fund you." And then you got the consumers like us saying, "Oh yeah, that sounds good." And then it just continues to perpetuate and get big and get worse and get worse and get worse. But with that being said, we're at that time mark. Thank everybody for coming on here, and Prince Zadok and BA. Thank you guys for adding to the conversation. Like always, I appreciate you guys when you guys come on. With that being said, Mr. Black Tastic, I appreciate you. I want to give you a moment to just give your final thoughts on everything that we were just talking about. Anything you want to add, your final thoughts, and of course, let the people know where they can reach you at.
Right. Well, first of all, I appreciate, thank you for having me on. And I appreciate most of all, the Most High for giving me the strength to do it. And I hope that something was said or done to inspire people and give them something to think about. I want to address, or rather piggyback on a comment that I agree with from Truth Talk Radio, where they said we're addressing symptoms as a culture and not the actual diagnosis. And that holds a lot of truth. And they went on to say that, which is why the prognosis is so catastrophic. And that's why I was talking earlier about getting to the grassroots level of how these things develop. That's why I kept using terms like etymology, because we're going back to the beginning of the thing. Where does this start? The person, like I said, they didn't start out as a little kid saying, I want to grow up and be a drill rapper, or even want to be a murderer or a gangster. The things that come up, that produce the environment, the music genre, and all these other things that we're seeing in our communities. So there's a breakdown in the home structure. There's a breakdown, in the environment, in the community. And we've been here long enough now to see how things work or happen. And my thing with the Black community in America in particular is you can't keep complaining about the system. When you see that the system is against you or is not willing to help you provide certain things, this is where self-reliance, and you have to take it in your own life and your environment and community into your own hands. We can talk about it, but it's not going to change until we be about it. And then we can't keep waiting for somebody else to take the reins and do it, because then we're going to send that person to an early grave, just like we sent my father and all of his other generation to an early grave many times, because we put the burden of fixing us on them and we didn't help them. We hung them out to dry, and we made it their responsibility to help us when we've all contributed to the issue, or we've all been victims of the system and environment that we're in. So we as a collective have to respond collectively. However, until that happens, individually, you have to take it upon yourself to mobilize and be as active as you possibly can. And then in doing that individually, you may inspire others to join with you or to duplicate what you're doing. Each of us is responsible for our own area of the garden to make sure we cultivate what we have. And we can't shirk that responsibility, because the music is being created, but it's the reason why it's successful is because it's being supported. So we have to make a decision to cut it off at the root.
Exactly. Tell the people where they can, and thank you for that advice, man. That was deep. And thank you so much for all the support in the comment section. Anybody, if you guys enjoyed the platform, you enjoyed the speakers, you enjoyed tonight's show, and you feel so much on your heart to donate to the platform, you can do Cash App, Let's Talk Podcast 55. We'll appreciate any support. All of it goes toward just trying to build this platform, trying to get it to grow. Also, you guys anyone that didn't hit the like button. We need to get the algorithms going. We gotta try to get this video out, especially with using certain words. YouTube will not push it. So I need you guys to push it. So please like, share, subscribe. Also, tell the people where they can find you. Where can they reach you?
You can catch me on my YouTube platform at Mr. Blacktastic. That's Mr. BLAKTASTIC. And then if you go to that page, you'll also be able to hit the my little Facebook icon and find the Facebook page that I use, and you can interact with me there. You can also email me at blacktastic, BLAKTASTIC @mail.com, and ask me whatever questions you have. And and I try to make myself available to respond to people within less than 48 hours. And if you come on the platform and listen to what we ranting and raving about, I'll probably interact with you there as well. But I'm a very reachable person. Some people that are in the chat have my phone number and talk to me regularly, and also communicate with me directly through instant messenger and stuff like that. All right. So again, sis, you done a great job with the platform. And this is a wonderful topic. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. So
thank
you for giving me the opportunity to
oh no, I'm happy today. I've been trying to get you from day one. When I saw you
appreciate that.
It was like, you see that guy right there? I said, yeah. They said, you're gonna get him. I said, I'm gonna get him. Because whoever the person that told me, I think it was BA. He was like, hold up, he's in your comment section? He's listening to your show? Girl, you made it. I was like, yeah. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm still trying to make it myself.
Nah, we got this. The thing is, a lot of times
I appreciate your love
that we're speaking on and that we're shining light on, people don't want to hear it. But that doesn't mean we're gonna stop. We're not gonna stop because it has to be heard, it has to be put out there. And I'm depending on you, the people, like they said, the consumers. I need you guys. You guys have got to push this out. This is a message that needs to reach our people. If you go through your phone and you copy and paste this to at least 20 people on your phone, at least 1 or 2 of those people watch it, that's an improvement. Put it on your social medias, like it, share it, like push it out there to the people, because this is not just about me and about you. It's about our people. Like you say, individually, we got to do our part, but collectively, we really do need to do better. And I think talking about it and then getting active is the next best move. So thank you again so much, Mr. Blacktastic. Make sure you guys check him out, his YouTube, look out, reach out to him, show him some love, show him some support, go on to the channel, like and subscribe over there. I can't wait to have you back on again. Anything you guys want to hear this brother speak on, put in the comment section, and we can try to push him back to come on again, because he be kind of, acting a little shy. Okay, the camera loves you. The people love you. Okay. With that being said, thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming to Let's Talk Podcast. We meet every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Sunday. We also do other projects throughout the week. So make sure you guys definitely get on to my channel and check out some of my other content. Till then, let's talk, family.